A man in a wool greatcoat stands in a room that smells of damp paper and cold metal. His hands don't shake from fear. They shake because his body is starving. Somewhere outside, the wind scrapes broken brick like a file. He is handed a message from far away. Clean, confident, written as if the world is still orderly. Hold the city. No retreat. The order is not just tactical. It is moral. It asks thousands of men to become proof. Proof that an empire's pride can outvote physics. Proof that reputation can substitute for fuel. Proof that a line on a map can be defended when the map itself is burning. Stalingrad is not the moment the war begins. It's the moment the war becomes unwinnable. It starts with momentum, with the illusion that speed is the same thing as inevitability. Germany has lived on a sequence of collapses, fronts that crack, governments that fall, armies that run out of space before they run out of hope. Success becomes a habit, habit becomes doctrine, and doctrine becomes a trap. In 1942, the plan stretches east again, not because it must, but because it can. The German war machine has an addiction to forward motion. Every victory creates a new requirement. More territory to hold, more roads to police, more rail lines to repair, more mouths to feed, more fuel to burn. The map balloons. The supply system does not. This is where pride hides in plain sight, inside logistics, inside assumptions, inside the quiet belief that somehow the trucks will arrive, the trains will run, the bridges will stand, and winter will be delayed by force of will. Stalingrad sits on the Volga like a clenched fist, a city with a symbolic name, yes, but also a strategic one. It guards a river artery. It threatens routes to the Caucasus oil fields. It becomes a hinge. Take it, and the southern campaign feels coherent. Fail, and the whole advance begins to look like a gamble laid bare. The Germans push hard. They get there, and then the city eats them. Urban war collapses scale. It turns divisions into squads. It turns artillery advantage into rubble that becomes cover. It turns time into exhaustion. Buildings change hands by the hour. Basements become fortresses. Factories become labyrinths. The front line is not a line at all. It's a collection of rooms, stairwells, courtyards, and cratered streets where survival depends on hearing footsteps through brick dust. But the Soviet defenders are not saved by innocence or virtue. They are saved by necessity and competence. They learn quickly. They adapt. They exploit the one advantage the city offers: proximity. If you can stay close enough, the enemy's firepower becomes dangerous to itself. If you can force the fight into knife range, the sky and the long guns matter less. On paper, the Germans are winning. They control most of the city. They reach the riverbank. The headlines can be written. The myth can be filmed. But the war is not paper. The war is supplies. Every mile east has stretched the German supply lines into brittle thread. Trains can't run smoothly. Track gauges differ. Lines are damaged. Parts are scarce. Trucks burn fuel just to bring fuel. Horses die. Men freeze. Ammunition arrives late, if it arrives at all. Food shrinks. Medical care evaporates. Meanwhile, to protect the flanks, Germany relies on allied armies, Romanian, Italian, Hungarian, often brave, often outgunned, too thinly equipped to absorb a modern, armored blow. This is the miscalculation that makes everything else inevitable. The belief that the enemy is nearly finished. The Soviet Union is not finished. It is bruised, furious, and learning. It has space. It has manpower. It has factories pushed beyond reach. It has commanders who begin to understand that time itself can be weaponized. And it chooses its moment with the cold patience of someone who has been forced to. In November, the trap closes. Not with a dramatic charge straight into the city, but with two hard punches into the exposed flanks. Operation Uranus is not a duel of champions. It's an execution of a mistake. Soviet armor and infantry crash through positions that cannot stop them. then race behind the German spearhead. The ring forms, roads vanish, airfields become prizes. The Sixth Army, deep inside Stalingrad, becomes an island of men and steel in an ocean of winter. Now the question is simple and brutal. Break out or be consumed? A breakout would mean abandoning the city, admitting that months of blood and propaganda were spent for nothing. It would mean telling the world that the drive east has limits. It would mean choosing lives over legend, and legend wins. The High Command promises what cannot be delivered: an airlift, a steady stream of food, fuel, ammunition, enough to keep an army alive in a frozen pocket hundreds of miles from safety. It sounds technical. It sounds plausible. It is neither. Planes can't conjure capacity. Weather doesn't negotiate. Soviet fighters and anti-aircraft guns don't respect schedules. Runways ice over. Aircraft are lost faster than they can be replaced. Each drop that lands is measured, rationed, fought over by arithmetic. Soldiers begin to live on calories like debt, paying today with tomorrow's collapse. Outside the ring, relief attempts gather. The German command tries to pry the trap open. Manstein's forces push in. They get close enough for trapped men to imagine rescue, close enough for hope to become another form of cruelty. But without a coordinated breakout, without fuel, without permission, closeness is not escape. The pocket holds. The noose tightens. Then comes the final moral failure, the last transaction between pride and reality. The commander in the pocket is promoted. A rank is pinned onto a starvation. The message beneath the honor is understood without being spoken. A field marshal does not surrender. The mythology demands a death that will tidy the story. But the story is already untidy. It is lice and frostbite and men too weak to bury their friends. It is ammunition counted like prayers. It is hospitals without anesthetic. It is a war reduced to the simplest truth. Bodies fail. And so surrender happens, not as a neat conclusion, but as a collapse. Units disintegrate. Orders lose meaning. Men stagger into captivity, believing the worst is over, not knowing that captivity will become another front of suffering. The city that was supposed to be a trophy becomes a graveyard for an army and a turning point for an era. After Stalingrad, the German war is no longer a campaign of expansion. It is damage control pretending to be strategy. The initiative bleeds away. Every future offensive carries a shadow. The memory that one encirclement can erase a legend. The Soviets do not become gentle victors. They become hardened victors. They learn that mass, timing, and endurance can break even the most feared machine, at an appalling human price. This is the uncomfortable truth Stalingrad leaves behind. Competence and courage exist on all sides, and they are still not enough to save people from the decisions made above them. Pride turns supply lines into afterthoughts. Reputation becomes a substitute for planning. And when leaders choose symbols over soldiers, war stops being about winning battles and becomes about proving a fantasy, until the fantasy eats everything. In the ruins by the Volga, victory does not look clean. It looks like survival that costs too much. It looks like heroes who live long enough to be emptied out by what they endured. And it looks like a war that, from this point forward, can only end one way: slowly, relentlessly, and without mercy.